my fellow Americans. My name is Albert J. Torcaso, and I have been a talk show host for 16 plus years. In that time, I have brought programming that at times was controversial, but always filled with honesty, good research, and integrity. And as such, I have in the past endorsed candidates for all levels of office. Now, because we have not had the conventions for the presidential election of 2020, I have not officially decided to endorse a candidate. But I will tell you what I am endorsing. I am endorsing a time for reflection, honesty, integrity, compassion, mutual responsibility and accountability, equality, and justice for all. And if one is honest, our nation, since its inception, has not been a nation of equality, fairness, or justice, truly for most of the American people. It is true, if we are being honest, that if you are white and male from the inception of our nation, you had a certain unwritten privilege. For many years, you had to be a white male to vote. And of course, women and African American, Black Americans, and others had to fight and die for that right to vote. It should also be noted that even though women and Black men and Native American and all other pigmentations and nationalities did not have certain rights, they still participated to fight for this nation. So here in 2020, while I come to you in this video, I'm actually sitting parked in a cemetery. And at different times of the year, I see flags, American flags. So my fellow Americans, the United States of America means something to me. The principles that our country was founded on means something to me. And even though our founding fathers were not perfect and omitted far too many of us, the principles, for the most part, are a blessing to all. So I ask each and every American, I don't care if you love the candidates, you think it's a waste of time, or you can't stand them, I'm asking you to register to vote and to fight legally and peacefully, non-violently and ethically for your right to vote, and to vote by mail. And I'm asking you to vote in the November election. And let me be presumptive. If the election does not go in November, then you vote in the election whenever it is held. Now, if I'm being brutally honest, and I will be, our nation is in trouble. Our democracy is at risk. Your freedom, whether you recognize it or not, is in severe critical condition. Your liberty your financial freedom, all of it. And as such, I ask you now to ensure that you vote. I ask you to register to vote by August the 1st. If you see this afterward, the second you see it, start registering to vote. I ask you, if you are 18 years old, to vote. If you think all of the candidates are a bunch of unpleasant realities, I'm trying to be polite, you vote. If you never voted in your life, you never wanted to, you vote. And I want you to know, I am not endorsing a candidate yet. And quite frankly, it can be a career risk, a financial risk, and a personal risk to me that I will endorse that candidate. I will sit down, I will lie down, or I will stand up for justice. I will not violently, but ethically, morally, spiritually, legally, and financially fight for what so many Americans, both men and women, both white and Chinese, black and Hispanic, Native American, people from the Middle East, every single pigmentation, every single financial demographic have fought for. And I will say this to my friends on the right and on the left. We listen to too much Fox TV. We listen to too much MSNBC or CNN. We listen to what we are comfortable hearing. But here is the reality. No president, no Congress ever fulfilled the promise of America for any white, black, Muslim, Christian, whatever you, gay, straight, whatever demographic, whichever way you want to say it. None of us have ever received, and many has not even been able to earn, what the promise of this nation is. Now, I ask each and every one of you to vote. And I ask each and every one of you to look up what I'm going to say to you. I want you to look it up on your favorite search engine, or maybe YouTube, or Daily Motion, whatever way, but find the information. I'm sorry, I had to look in my mirror. I had a little bit of an issue going on. Find this information. Find it. Because what I'm about to tell you will verify and erase all reasonable doubt and provide the preponderance of the evidence that our nation has never lived up to what it is supposed to be. And it doesn't matter your demographic. Now, strong words, right? As a matter of fact, radical words. But I promise you, with the words that I shall speak again, for these words were from a Republican president. His name was Abraham Lincoln. And even he was not able to live up to these very words that he spoke. Look it up on your favorite search engine. I do not remember the speech, But I will tell you some of the words. He said, all men have a right, not a privilege. All men have a right to honorable employment. And there's the second part. And a fair chance in the race of life. All men have a right to honorable employment and a fair chance in the race of life. Now, obviously, it should have been all Americans. But think about those words. All men have a right to honorable employment and a fair chance in the race of life. Now I ask you to look at your situation, your parents and your grandparents, your family, your friends, your coworkers. How many of you, if you're being honest, would say you have had honorable employment? And even still, even more of you, how many of you would say you had a fair chance in the race of life? So as we vote in November 2020, in November 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, 2026, 2027, 2028, 2029, 2030, 31, 32, 33, 34, to the rest of your life. As we vote in the general election, whether it's for president, senator, mayor, let us remember Abraham Lincoln's words. A fair chance in the race of life. Now, in November 2020, we faced a monumental, life-altering decision. I believe you will believe I am extreme, I am outrageous, I am partisan, whatever you want to call it. But the truth is, I am not partisan. I am a patriot. In November, we are not really voting for a president or a Congress, a state legislator, or a mayor. We are really voting for a president, members of the House of Representatives, the United States Senate, and our state legislators. But we are actually voting for the future of democracy or an authoritarian, communist-style, fascist-style, dictatorship-style country. We are voting for freedom or enslavement. Those are very strong words. But let me tell you something. We now have a Supreme Court that has slowly taken away many of our rights. At least you be a liberal Democrat or progressive. Some of these rights and some of these rulings were 9-0 or 7-2, meaning the liberal end and the conservative voted to take away your rights. So when we vote in November, we are voting for democracy or authoritarianism. We are going to be a nation that welcomes immigrants or vilifies them, that cares about people living or dying, or only wants them to die. Now, I'm going to say something extremist. Our current administration in Washington has done almost nothing to save the millions upon millions of lives that have been affected by the COVID-19. They have done nothing. For those of you who talk about the stimulus and all those trillions, yes, they are true. That is true. They have done that. But in a larger sense, they have not done what they need to do. So I'm asking you to vote. I will pull no punches. The current administration and those in the houses are not getting it done. Frankly, I'm not impressed with either party. But there is one party that's more likely to help you stay alive. That's not about being partisan. That's about being honest. So whether you are a young black man, a young black woman, a young educated or non-educated, or any age, educated, non-educated, a very conservative Republican or Tea Partier, or a very progressive Democrat, we must unite for democracy. For what these men and women fought and died for. Make no mistake, democracy is on the ballot. Oh, you won't see it written there, but it is. Make no mistake, when we have a nation that peaceful protesting gets met with violent police authoritarian responses. We can spin it all that we want in the media. Those in D.C. can say, well, actually, it was because they were attacked. But we must remember who we are supposed to be. We must remember the freedom of speech and peaceful protest. We must remember what is at risk. When we vote in November, we vote for a police state or a free state. We vote to uphold what hundreds of thousands of Union soldiers fought and died for, and fought and lived for, to bring back our nation. Men who gave their last full measure of devotion, words of Abraham Lincoln, Republican. We fight for every man or woman that participated or fought in World War I and World War II. When we vote, we fight for the Tuskegee Airmen or the Native American Code Talkers of World War II. When we vote, we fight for George Washington, for Abraham Lincoln. When we vote in November of 2020, we vote for our future. Now, anywhere from 25 to 60 million Americans will vote for an authoritarian state. Anywhere from 25 to 60 million Americans are going to vote to end our freedom. They are going to vote to enslave themselves. They may not know what they do. That maybe they're putting the dictator in. Maybe it's because they have principles. Maybe they don't like that the other candidate doesn't agree with them. But this is far greater than the issues that we normally look at. This is the enslavement and end of democracy in America, or democracy. No in between. Now, when you think I'm being extremist, alarmist, or anything, we must not forget that many of our rights have been taken away. That the United States Supreme Court, mostly conservative, Republican appointed decisions, have taken away a lot of rights that you and your grandparents counted on. We must not forget that in 2006, habeas corpus was suspended. We must not forget that if you are accused to be an enemy combatant, under the law, the United States of America can detain you indefinitely. You will not have a right to an attorney. You will not have a right to an attorney. And they can even take you out, eliminate you. We must understand that our nation is at risk. That we can choose to pick slavery. We can choose an authoritarian government. We can allow gerrymandering by the Republican Party to kill our freedom. We can allow gerrymandering in certain cases by the Democratic Party to kill our freedom. For the record, back in the 1860s, the Republicans were really a grand party. The party of Lincoln. Compassion, love, respect. And they were for the average American or others. But somewhere between 1865 and 2020, the Republican Party became an abomination. Yes, as in spiritually. They are evil in their policies. They are an abomination. Least you think the Democrats or the Democratic Party have never been an abomination. During the early years, the Democratic Party was an abomination. Many in the Democratic Party started the Jim Crow laws, were extraordinarily racist. So if we look to our history, both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party at times were abominations. They were evil, and they should have been thrown out of the country or tried for treason. But in 2000, the Republican Party has been taken over by the extraordinary extremists. Yet the Democratic Party has not stood up, has not put their foot down. For those of you that said, well, they impeached Trump for his actions, but did they? As it was said, they could have written the impeachment articles in such a way that the Senate would have to have had to impeach Trump. For anyone who is supporting Trump, I love you spiritually. But make no mistake, morally speaking, it's not a good idea. For anyone who's in love with Joe Biden, he's not perfect. He has done wrong also. So now you might ask, if both of them have issues and they're the only real choices, who do I pick? You pick the one who, even though they have had evil actions, and we know they did, both parties, you pick the ones that are out to see you survive, to see that you have access to education, medical care, and the things you need in life. That's the one you pick. The one that, regardless if there's health care or not, wants you to still live in a democracy. That's the one you pick. Now, there will be millions of people who vote for Trump and vote for the Republican Party, for the GOP to be in the Senate, and for the GOP to be in the House. And that is their right, thanks to still having freedom. Now, there will be millions that vote for the Democrats. And many have this illusion or delusion that they're all that in a bag of chips, that they are the best answer. What they are is the best we can do at this time. For those of you who think I don't like any Republicans or any Republican policies, you would be sadly mistaken. That's not true. What I don't like is the extremism. I don't like when Mitch McConnell denies a president, but really one of the first times in history, denied President Obama even the courtesy to have his Supreme Court justice have a fair hearing, and Merrick Garland. For the good of this nation, for the good of freedom and democracy, and what those men and women have fought for over 230 some years, I say unto you, make sure that Mitch McConnell is voted out. You may be the most conservative, Mitch McConnell-loving Republican, but I'm asking you to vote for freedom. I'm asking you to go above party, to remember America before Mitch. Frankly, before Chuck Schumer. You see, Joe Biden is right. This isn't about him. It's about us. Now, the reality is, there will be a lot of people who vote for dictatorship. A vote for Trump is a vote for dictatorship. A vote for Biden is a vote for a little bit better than the status quo. But I want you to look at this in a different way. This year, we don't vote for Biden. We don't vote for Trump. We don't vote for Kanye West or any other candidate. We vote for democracy. We vote for justice. We vote for prosperity. We vote for you to have a legitimate, sustainable income that is not solely reliant on you having a job. When this COVID pandemic happened, you should still have had a way to earn money, feed your family, and get what you need. And who is truly to blame? The Republican and Democratic parties. But we, the people of the United States, have a right to protest. We must declare that Black lives do matter. Black lives 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 matter. We must also declare Native American lives matter. Native American lives matter. Native American lives matter. Native American lives matter. Hispanic lives matter. Hispanic lives matter. Hispanic lives matter. Hispanic lives matter. Muslim lives matter. Muslim lives matter. Muslim lives. Asian lives matter. Caucasian, white people's lives matter. That's what we must do. We must understand this is the nation where all people matter.
There you go, I agree.
And we must say, God bless America, atheists included. All lives matter. These men and these women lying in these cemeteries throughout the United States and throughout the world fought for you, Republican, you Democrat, you liberal, you conservative, libertarian or green. These men died for us, and lived. And we're talking all the way back to George Washington and Paul Revere, and to the men and the women with uniforms on right now around the globe, defending American freedom. But what are we defending when we take away the right to protest? What are we defending when millions of Americans are now buying guns because they're terrified? Because we have media outlets that are scaring them and making them think that every single protester is ready to kill them. It's not true. And when we're being lied to by CNN and Fox, this is America. Land of the brave. Home of the free. But if we vote wrong in November 2020, it's going to be land of the enslaved, home of the cowards. It's going to be land of the foolish people and the enslaved. And I don't know about you, ma'am, you, sir. I love every soldier, every sailor, every Navyman, Marine, Airman and woman, Coast Guard, National Guard, Reserves. They put on that uniform, and millions have died. Millions and millions and millions. So I'm going to get fired up. And maybe you think you're in church, but it's God is my witness. You could not pay me all the money in this universe or any multiverse to vote to end our democracy. Make no mistake, you may not see it. You may not feel it until you have something done to you, or somehow get accused of something. And you're thinking, I have my right to an attorney and whatever. And you find out you don't. Or maybe you want to protest in favor of adoption. Or whatever it may be. And you find out, well, it's unlawful, even though you're being peaceful. Now you might say, that would never happen. Oh, it won't? Trust me, with the way the Supreme Court is ruling, It may well happen. For my friends on the conservative end, you will laugh at this. You will have been gone. You don't even watch. You're not even watching this. But if you by any chance happen to see this, you think, well, he's being extreme. No, sir. No, ma'am. And just because you're conservative and you voted for Trump and you've always paid your dues and you're pro-life and all that, you're really not pro-life. You're pro-birth, but that's another story. I'm not trying to insult you. There's a difference between pro-life and pro-birth. And the Republicans are pro-birth. They are not pro-life. I'm not saying every Republican, but their policies are pro-birth. But they are not pro-life. I guess I better comment on that as a sidebar. Pro-life includes having enough money for that child to have a shelter, as in a home, an apartment, a condominium, whatever. Pro-life means that child has access to education throughout his or her life. Means they have food in their mouth. Means they have access to medical care. It means that they have the basic and sometimes non-basic benefits. That is pro-life. And if you're really pro-life, my friends on the right, then you should vote for the Democratic Party. Now, my feelings of abortion. I hate it. But I don't believe women should go to prison or doctors should for it. And I love women. And yes, I believe mutual responsibility. A woman should not have sexual relations with anybody who's not willing to have protection so that the unplanned or unwanted pregnancy does not happen. But here's the reality, my friends. Many women are forced, coerced, or scared into sexual acts and are raped, incest, and others. Or maybe it's even a medical issue. To outlaw abortion, although in principle, yes, I want every baby to be born. Absolutely. Yeah, you could call that a conservative or right or Republican principle. Absolutely. I want every single person to live. But you see, I'm pro-life. I want you to have food for that child for their entire life. And medicine, if need be. Education and housing. And clothes. That's pro-life. So I won't hear my friends on the right tell me they're pro-life anymore. Unless they are for policies that really would help that child to live. Because I don't know about you, but I'm tired of children living in poverty. I don't know about you, but I don't like the fact that in America, we have over 10 million children who are going hungry. Over 10 million. So don't give me this tagline, senators or congressmen from the left or the right or out of sight. And congresswomen, don't you dare tell me, whether you're Democrat or Republican, that you're pro-life. Until you tell me and show me in writing what your policies are. And if they do not include universal medical care, universal shelter, universal food, water, clothing, and education, then you, sir, and you, ma'am, are full of the most hottest hot air in the universe. And I will not stand down. I don't care if you are Donald Trump, Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, George Bush, or any president in the history of America. I would not stand down. I would not sit down. I would not remain silent. When it is wrong, it is wrong. And when it is right, it is right. And I'm not yelling at you But I get fired up when your life is at risk. And yes, sir, and yes, ma'am, I know many of you will vote for Trump. But with all due respect, you are deluded, brainwashed, lied to, or you have something in your brain that has a hatred in there for somebody. I understand that. There's a lot of things I could hate. And I'm going to share something with you on an extraordinary personal level. I am considered 550% below the poverty line. Now, I know you're probably thinking, well, how does he come to that? Trust me. But I'm going to prove it to you. You see, I needed help at least a couple of times in my life with a plan called LIHEAP, a government program. In the past, I needed help from a program called Crises. In the past, I've had utility companies send me a disconnect notice. And in that disconnect notice, they would have a budget. If you're below 150, a requirement. If you are below 150% below the poverty line, you could get help from LIHEAP and from Dollar Energy and Crisis. Well, let me tell you, ma'am, let me tell you, sir, I looked at the one person amount that you couldn't go above. And at the time, it was like, I think it might have been $1,900 per year. And I looked at that. It was like 18, 19, somewhere. And I looked at the number, and then I looked at how much I was getting per month and per year. And when I looked at it, we were 550% below the poverty line. And I don't mean this to be funny, but I have said to Annette, my girlfriend since 1982, I said to her, Annette, if we can just get to the level of poor, we're going to feel rich. If we can get to the level of poor, we're going to feel rich. You see, because if we get to poor, that means we won't be below any poverty line. We'll be at the poverty line. If we can get at the poverty line or higher, we're going to feel rich. But I made a decision about 6 years ago that I'm not settling no more. I'm not listening to the left. I'm not listening to the right. I'm not listening to the religious people, religious or the academia or anybody. I'm not going to listen to them say, for this reason you can't. Nobody on the face of the earth will tell me I can't. Because if God said I can, then in Jesus Christ's name, I say amen. And yes, I can. Now, I don't know about you, my fellow Americans. I don't know about you. But I believe in the principles of America. And I love every one of those people who ever defended our nation. I may not agree with some of their policies. I may not like a lot of their actions. But I believe in this nation. I believe in every Republican president that fought for the right in America. Every Democratic president. And George Washington. Now, I don't know about you. But I know about me. I don't even know about Annette. But I know about Albert J. Torcaso. I'll be voting in November for freedom. And it doesn't matter if it's Joe Biden or Bob Ziden. I made that name up. It ain't about Biden. It ain't about Trump. It ain't about Kanye or Kanye. It's about you. It's about the man and the woman stuck working almost 24 hours of their life, really, and having zero. It's about the mother who works at a big box store and still can't get her child or herself what she needs. I'm for you, right wing, left wing, and in between. I'm for you, Republican, Democrat. I'm for you, black, white, red, green, whatever. I'm for you. And I'll tell you the truth. If I was famous right now, I'd be joining Kanye West. I'd be joining Trump. I'd be joining Biden. If I was famous and had the money, I would campaign for president of the United States. Why? Why, sir? Why, ma'am? Not because I have an ego, but because I love the United States of America. So I don't know about you, ma'am. I don't know about you, sir. But I believe that if we want our democracy, all Americans must vote. We must vote for democracy. So I ask and I implore you, if you ever celebrated the 4th of July, if you ever celebrated Memorial Day, vote in November and stand up for America. I ask the Lord thy God and Jesus Christ, Lord, I ask you now, please save the United States of America. And please heal everyone dealing with COVID around the globe. And I ask this, Lord, in our Savior, Jesus Christ's name. For my friends who are atheists and agnostic and other faiths, I love you too. Whether you're right or left, I love you. But if I love you, I'm not making it easy on you. Now, for any man or 18-year-old woman or man or woman, that's right, woman. If you're 18 to 918, okay, as old as you can get, you must vote in this and every election. Every woman, you get out there and you get registered tomorrow. Every man, every black American, every Chinese American, every Asian American of all nations, every person must vote. If you're 18, consider it as important as breathing. As breathing. If you never voted in your entire life and you're 58 years old, vote. I love you. I love you. I may not like you voting for certain people, but I love you. You may get on my last nerve, and I'm ready to go to the emergency room and get a new set of nerve transplants, but I love you. It may seem like I'm yelling at you. I'm not really. I'm just energized, and I'm fighting for our nation. I'm like the Tuskegee Airmen. I do my stuff legally, ethically, nonviolently, morally, and peacefully. But make no mistake, listen to the words of the Tuskegee Airmen. We fight. We fight. We fight. My name is Albert J. Torcaso, and I approve of this video because I love you.